Danny Foster wiped the sweat from his forehead and checked the atmospheric sensor one more time. The device looked fine, its lights blinking in the usual pattern. He was 15 years old and had been doing this job for 6 months now. The colony of New Haven needed someone to check these sensors every week, and Danny needed the credits. His family had arrived on this frontier world 2 years ago, hoping for a better life. The forest around him was thick with tall trees that had purple leaves instead of green. New Haven was beautiful but dangerous. His father always told him to stay alert. Strange creatures lived in these woods, some of them big enough to hurt a person badly. Danny carried a utility knife and an emergency kit, but he hoped he would never need them. A loud sound suddenly tore through the sky above him. Danny looked up and saw something burning as it fell through the clouds. Whatever it was coming down fast. The object crashed through the tree canopy about half a kilometer away. The impact shook the ground under his feet. Danny grabbed his emergency kit and started running. His communicator crackled with static when he tried to call for help. Something was blocking the signal. The colony's rescue team would take at least an hour to get here anyway. If someone was hurt in that crash, an hour might be too long. He reached the crash site 10 minutes later, breathing hard. What he found made him stop and stare. The wreckage was like nothing he had ever seen before. The metal was a strange blue-silver color that seemed to shimmer in the light. The ship's design looked almost alive, with smooth curves instead of straight edges. This was not human technology. Danny moved closer carefully. Pieces of the ship were scattered everywhere, some still smoking. Then he heard a sound that made his heart race. Someone was crying out in pain. He ran toward the sound and found her trapped under a piece of twisted metal. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue and seemed to glow softly. Her eyes were larger than human eyes, and they looked at him with fear and pain. She appeared to be about his age, maybe a little younger. Her leg was caught under the wreckage, and Danny could see blood on her clothes. The blood was red, just like human blood, which surprised him. The alien girl said something in a language Danny did not understand. She tried to pull herself free but cried out again. Danny held up his hands to show he meant no harm. He pointed to himself and said his name slowly. Then he pointed to the metal trapping her leg and made a lifting motion. She seemed to understand. She nodded and said something that might have been her name, but Danny could not make out the sounds. He studied the wreckage carefully. The metal piece was heavy, but he thought he could lift it if he used a long piece of debris as a lever. Danny found a strong metal rod and positioned it under the piece trapping the girl. He pushed down hard, using all his strength. The metal lifted slowly. The girl pulled her leg free and collapsed onto the ground. Danny let the metal fall and rushed to her side. Her leg was badly hurt. Danny opened his emergency kit and pulled out bandages and antiseptic spray. He had taken first aid classes at the colony school. He worked quickly, cleaning the wound as gently as he could. The girl watched him with those large eyes, tears running down her face. She said something soft, and even though he could not understand the words, Danny knew she was thanking him. When he finished bandaging her leg, Danny tried his communicator again, still nothing but static. He looked around at the crash site and noticed something that made his stomach tight with worry. There were burn marks on the hull that looked like weapon impacts. This ship had been shot down. He heard the girl make a frightened sound. She was pointing past him into the forest. Danny turned and listened. Something was moving out there. Something big. The footsteps were heavy enough to make the ground vibrate slightly. Trees swayed as whatever it was pushed through them. Danny helped the girl move toward a large rock formation nearby. There was an overhang that would give them some shelter. She could not walk on her injured leg, so he supported most of her weight. They had just reached the rocks when Danny saw it. The creature stood 3 meters tall on 4 powerful legs. Its body was covered in thick armored plates that looked like dark metal. Sharp claws dug into the ground with each step. Its head was massive, with a mouth full of teeth designed for tearing meat. The colonists called these animals razorbacks, and they were the most dangerous predators on New Haven. Danny had seen razorbacks before, but only from a safe distance. They usually avoided humans. This one was different. Its eyes looked wild, and foam dripped from its mouth. It growled low in its throat as it stared at them. The alien girl grabbed Danny's arm and made an urgent sound. She was terrified. Danny positioned himself between her and the Razorback. He pulled out his utility knife with one hand and his emergency flare gun with the other. The flare gun only had 2 shots, and it was meant for signaling rescue teams, not fighting monsters. The Razorback began to circle them slowly. It was smart, looking for the best angle to attack. Danny kept turning to face it, staying between it and the injured girl. His heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. He knew he could not win a fight against this creature. But he also knew he could not run and leave the girl behind. The alien girl said something behind him. Her voice was gentle despite her fear. Danny glanced back and saw that she had pulled herself up against the rock wall. She was trying to stand but could not put weight on her injured leg. She met his eyes and nodded slowly, as if she understood what he was doing. The Razorback stopped circling. It lowered its head and pawed at the ground like a bull about to charge. Danny raised the flare gun and took a breath. His hands were shaking. He had never been this scared in his life. But he thought about his father's words. A real man protects those who cannot protect themselves. The Razorback charged. Danny pulled the trigger. The flare shot out in a streak of bright red light and hit the creature right in the face. The Razorback roared and veered to the side, shaking its head. The bright light and loud noise had startled it. But it was not hurt. It was just angry now. Danny had 1 flare left. He looked around quickly for anything else he could use. There were some dead branches nearby. Long and thick. He ran out and grabbed 3 of them, then used his knife to sharpen the ends into points. They were not good weapons, but they were better than nothing. The alien girl watched him work. Her expression changed from fear to something else. Maybe surprise or respect. Danny finished making his crude spears and took his position again. The Razorback had recovered from the flare. It was watching them now with pure hate in its eyes. Danny knew the next charge would be the real fight. He gripped one of the spears and waited. The girl said something else in her language. This time it sounded like a prayer. The Razorback charged again. Faster this time. Danny planted his feet and held the sharpened branch like a spear. When the creature got close, he jabbed at its face, aiming for the eyes. The Razorback twisted its head, and the wooden point scraped across its armored plates without doing any real damage. But it made the creature back off for a moment. Danny's arms were already tired. The Razorback was testing him, learning his moves. It circled again, and Danny kept turning to face it. Behind him, the alien girl was doing something with a device on her wrist. Lights flickered across a small screen, but Danny could not look away from the creature long enough to see what she was doing. The Razorback feinted left, then struck from the right. Its claws raked across Danny's arm, tearing through his jacket and leaving burning lines of pain. He stumbled, but did not fall. He jabbed again with the spear, this time catching the creature in the soft part of its throat. The Razorback roared and backed up several steps. Good. It could be hurt. Danny just had to find the weak spots between the armor plates. His arm was bleeding, but he pushed the pain away. There would be time to worry about that later if he survived. The alien girl grabbed his shoulder and pulled him back toward the rock wall. She held up her wrist device, and Danny saw holographic images floating in the air. The images showed creatures like the Razorback attacking buildings and people. But these people were not human. They had the same pale blue skin as the girl. She pointed to the Razorback, then to the images, then made a gesture like something was controlling them. Danny understood. Someone was making these creatures attack. That explained why this Razorback was acting so strange. It was not hunting naturally. It was being driven to attack them. The girl touched her chest and made a sound that might have been her name. It sounded like she was saying something close to Kira. Danny repeated it, and she nodded. She pointed at him with a questioning look. He said his name again, speaking slowly. She tried to say it, but her mouth had trouble with some of the sounds. It came out like, Dan knee. Close enough. Kira pointed to the sky and made sweeping gestures. More danger was coming. They needed to survive this fight and get help. Danny nodded to show he understood. He picked up another one of his makeshift spears, 2 left, plus his knife and 1 more flare. The Razorback had been watching them while they communicated. Now it seemed to realize they were planning something. It charged again, not bothering with careful movements this time. It just came at them with pure violence. Danny threw one of the spears. His aim was good, and the point stuck in the creature's shoulder. The Razorback barely slowed down. Danny fired his last flare, not at the creature's face this time, but at its open mouth as it roared. The flare shot down the Razorback's throat, and the creature made a horrible choking sound. It stumbled and crashed into the ground, thrashing, but it was not dead. After a few seconds, it got back up. One of its eyes was damaged from the flare's heat, and it was having trouble breathing, but it was still coming for them, driven by whatever was controlling it. Danny was out of ranged weapons. All he had left was his knife and 1 wooden spear. His bleeding arm was getting weaker. Kira was pulling herself up using the rock wall, trying to help somehow despite her injured leg. She had grabbed a sharp piece of metal from the wreckage. The Razorback charged 1 more time. This was it. Danny knew he had 1 chance. If he missed, they were both dead. He held his ground, the knife in 1 hand, and the last spear in the other. Kira was shouting something in her language, maybe trying to distract the creature. When the Razorback was 3 meters away, Danny threw the spear with all his remaining strength. It flew straight and true, striking the creature right in its already injured eye. The Razorback screamed and reared up on its hind legs. Danny saw his opening. He ran forward and drove his knife upward into the soft flesh under the creature's jaw, where there was no armor. The knife sank deep. The Razorback's jaws snapped down on Danny's shoulder and arm. Pain exploded through his body, worse than anything he had ever felt. He heard Kira scream. The creature's teeth tore through his jacket and into his flesh, but Danny held on to the knife and twisted it. The Razorback made a gurgling sound. Its jaws opened, and Danny fell backward. The creature took 2 more steps, then collapsed onto its side. Blood pooled on the ground beneath it. After a few more seconds, it stopped moving. Danny lay on his back, staring up at the purple leaves above him. His shoulder and arm were on fire with pain. He could feel blood soaking through his clothes. When he tried to move his left arm, it would not respond properly. That was bad. That was very bad. Kira's face appeared above him. She was crying, tears running down her blue cheeks. She said something in her language, the words tumbling out fast. She looked at his wounds and her eyes went wide with horror. She started tearing strips of cloth from her flight suit, trying to bandage him. Danny wanted to tell her it was okay, that he was glad she was safe. But his mouth would not form the words. Everything was getting fuzzy. He could see Kira pressing the cloth against his shoulder, trying to stop the bleeding. Her hands were shaking. She pulled something from a pocket in her suit. It was a small, crystal-like device that glowed with soft blue light. She pressed it into Danny's hand and closed his fingers around it. She was saying something urgent, the same words over and over. It sounded important, but Danny could not understand. His vision was starting to go dark around the edges. He heard new sounds in the forest. More footsteps, but these were different. Organized. Many figures moving together with purpose. Kira looked up and started shouting in her language. Her voice sounded happy and relieved. Danny tried to focus. Through his blurry vision, he could see shapes moving between the trees. They were tall figures, walking on 2 legs like humans but moving differently. They wore some kind of armor that seemed to shift colors to match the forest. They carried weapons that looked advanced and dangerous. One figure was taller than the others. This one walked with confidence and authority. The figure came closer and stood over Danny and Kira. Even through his fading consciousness, Danny could see this was someone important. The armor was more decorated, covered with markings and symbols. This was a leader. Kira was talking rapidly, pointing at Danny and then at the dead Razorback. The tall figure looked down at Danny for a long moment. The face was similar to Kira's but older and harder, marked with scars. The eyes were sharp and calculating. This being had seen many battles. The leader gave orders in that alien language, and immediately 2 of the soldiers moved forward. They lifted Danny carefully onto some kind of stretcher that floated in the air without any visible support. Kira tried to get up to follow, but other soldiers were putting her on a stretcher too. She kept reaching toward Danny, still saying things he could not understand. Danny felt himself being carried through the forest. The movement was smooth, like floating. He could hear voices around him speaking in that strange language. Kira was nearby. He could hear her voice among the others. She sounded like she was arguing with someone. The tall leader walked beside Danny's stretcher. The being looked down at him again, and this time there was something in those alien eyes that Danny could recognize even through his pain. Respect, maybe. Or curiosity. The leader said something that sounded like a question. Danny tried to answer, but only a weak sound came out. The leader's expression did not change, but there was a slight nod. Then the darkness closed in completely, and Danny knew nothing more. Danny woke up in pieces. First, he became aware of light against his closed eyelids. Then he heard sounds, soft beeping and the murmur of voices speaking that alien language. His body felt strange, like he was floating in warm water. The pain in his shoulder was gone, replaced by a gentle tingling sensation. He opened his eyes slowly. The ceiling above him was smooth and white, with patterns of light moving across it like slow waves. This was definitely not his colony's medical center. He turned his head carefully and saw he was in some kind of bed surrounded by medical equipment that looked nothing like human technology. The room was carved out of rock, but the walls were smooth and covered with displays showing information he could not read. Several machines stood around his bed, doing things he did not understand. One of them seemed to be projecting a field of soft blue light over his injured shoulder and arm. Danny tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. He was weak, and his head spun. A gentle hand pressed him back down. He looked up and saw an alien face looking down at him. This being was older than Kira, with darker blue skin and white markings on the forehead. The alien wore something that looked like medical clothing. The medic said something in a calm voice and adjusted one of the machines. The dizziness faded. Danny looked down at his arm and was amazed. Where the razorback had torn his flesh, there was now new pink skin forming. The wounds were healing right in front of his eyes. Whatever technology these aliens had, it was incredible. Movement in the next bed caught his attention. Kira was there, sitting up in her own medical pod. Her leg was wrapped in something that glowed faintly. When she saw Danny looking at her, her face lit up with joy. She said something quickly and tried to get up, but the medic moved over and gently pushed her back down. Kira and the medic had a short conversation. Then Kira reached to a device on the table beside her bed. She touched it, and suddenly Danny heard her voice in English. The words were accented and slightly wrong, but he could understand them. Danny Foster. You are awake. I am happy. Danny's throat was dry. He managed to croak out, You speak English? Kira shook her head and pointed to the device. This speaks. It learns from your words. I say, in my language. It says in yours. Where are we? My people's camp. We are safe now. You saved me. My father wants to meet you. Your father? Before Kira could answer, the door opened. Several aliens walked in, all wearing armor similar to what Danny had seen in the forest. They moved aside, and the tall leader entered. Up close and conscious, Danny could see the being clearly. He was indeed taller than the others, over 2 meters. His armor was decorated with symbols that probably meant rank. His face was stern, with scars running across one side. But his eyes were intelligent and sharp. The leader looked at Danny for a long moment. Then he spoke, and the translation device on Kira's table picked up his words. Human child, I am Vex Thor, commander of this mission and chief of the Valorian scout fleet. The one you saved is Kira, my daughter. Danny's eyes went wide. He had saved the alien commander's daughter. That explained why they had helped him. He tried to sit up properly this time, wanting to show respect. Vex Thor made a gesture that seemed to mean he should stay lying down. "Sir, I just did what anyone would do," Danny said. Kira's laugh came through the translator. "No. Not anyone. You are small. You are hurt now. The beast was big. But you stood between danger and me. This is brave." Vex's Thor spoke again. "My daughter is correct. By our law, such courage creates a life debt. You saved her when you could have run. You fought a dangerous creature with simple weapons. You were Bitten protecting her. This cannot be ignored." "I don't understand," Danny said. Vex Thor moved closer to the bed. "Among my people, honor is everything. When someone saves another's life through personal risk, a debt is created. The saved one or their family must repay this debt. But there is a problem." The commander paused, and Danny saw something in his expression. Concern, maybe, or frustration. "Your people and mine have not yet made official contact. There are rules about interfering with developing civilizations. My superiors on the council will be very unhappy that you have seen our technology and met us. Some will argue we should make you forget or return you without explanation." Danny felt his stomach sink. "Are you going to do that?" Kira spoke up, her voice passionate even through the translator. "No. I will not allow it. This human showed courage and honor. He is more worthy than many Valorians I know. The council is wrong if they think forgetting this is right." "Kira," Vex Thor said, his voice carrying warning. But there was also something else in his tone. "Pride, maybe," the young alien continued. Danny did not think about rules. He did not calculate if he should help. He saw me hurt, and he acted. "Father, you always say that true honor is shown in actions, not words." Danny showed honor. Vex Thor looked at his daughter, then back at Danny. "She is right, of course. But the situation is complicated. We came to this world hunting criminals, dangerous beings who have been attacking frontier colonies. They use technology to make native creatures aggressive. The razorback that attacked you was enhanced with biostimulants. That's why it acted so crazy," Danny said, remembering how strange the creature had been. "Yes. These criminals shoot down our ships, drive settlers away with beast attacks, then claim the empty worlds. We were tracking them when Kira's scout ship was hit. Now they know we are here. They will attack this camp soon." "How many are there?" "Too many. We are a small team, only 12 warriors. The criminals have larger numbers, and they have many enhanced creatures under their control. We have superior weapons, but we can be overwhelmed." Danny thought about his colony. "They've been attacking New Haven?" "Yes. Small attacks to test your defenses. They plan a larger assault soon. Your colony government thinks the attacks are just bad luck with native wildlife. They do not know the truth." Kira leaned forward. "This is why we must work together, humans and Valorians. The criminals threaten both our peoples." Vex Thor was quiet for a moment. Danny could see him thinking, weighing options. Finally, the commander spoke again. "Danny Foster, you have created a difficult situation, but perhaps it is also an opportunity. My honor demands I repay the life debt. The council's rules say I should not reveal ourselves to your people. These two things cannot both be true. What will you do?" Danny asked. "I will choose honor over rules. The council can be angry, but I will not abandon the one who saved my daughter. Danny Foster, I name you Talon Honored, a title given only to the bravest warriors. You are now recognized by Valorian law as one of us, regardless of what species you were born." Kira made a sound of joy. The other warriors in the room looked surprised, but they struck their chests with their fists in what seemed to be a salute. "I don't know what to say," Danny managed. "You need say nothing. Rest now and heal. When you are ready, we will speak more about the danger coming. But know this, human child, you have allies now." Vex Thor turned to leave, but alarm sounds suddenly filled the room. Red lights flashed along the walls. Warriors immediately grabbed their weapons. The commander's expression went hard. "They have found us," he said. "All warriors to defensive positions. Secure the medical bay." Kira was already trying to get out of her bed. A warrior moved to stop her, but she pushed past. "I can fight." "Your leg is not healed," Vexthor said. "It is healed enough." Father and daughter stared at each other. Finally, Vexthor nodded. "Arm her." Danny sat up despite the medic's protests. "I can help too." "You are too injured," Vexthor said. "I know this forest. I know these creatures. You need every advantage you can get." That, Vex's Thor studied Danny's face for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. It was not a warm smile, but one of respect. "Very well, Talon-Honored. If you insist on fighting beside us, who am I to refuse? Give him light armor and a weapon." The armor they gave Danny was light but strong, made from material that felt almost like fabric but turned hard when he pressed on it. It fit itself to his body automatically, leaving his healing arm free to move. One of the warriors handed him a weapon that looked like a rifle but glowed with blue energy along its sides. The warrior showed him quickly how to aim and fire. Point and press the trigger. Simple enough. Kira was already dressed in her combat gear, testing her injured leg. She walked with only a small limp now. Whatever medicine the Valorians had was amazing. She saw Danny and came over to him. "You should not fight," she said through the translator. "You are still hurt. So are you. I have trained for combat since I was small. You are a civilian." I killed that razorback, didn't I?" Kira's expression softened. "Yes, you did. But this will be many beasts, all controlled and directed. It is different from one creature. I know this forest better than any of your warriors. I grew up here. That has to count for something." They walked out of the medical bay and into a large cavern that served as the main camp. Valorian warriors were taking positions along the walls and at the entrance. Danny could see outside through the cave mouth. They were in a canyon with steep rock walls on both sides. It was a good defensive position, but also a trap if they got surrounded. Vexthor was standing at a tactical display, looking at holographic images of the surrounding terrain. Danny approached, and the commander glanced at him. "The criminals are driving enhanced creatures toward us from 3 directions. We count at least 40 beasts, maybe more. They want to overwhelm us with numbers." Danny looked at the holographic map. He recognized the canyon and the forest around it. He studied the layout for a moment, then pointed to several spots on the display. "These areas here and here. The ground is weak. Old stream beds underneath. If you could collapse them, the beasts would fall through or get stuck." Vexthor looked at the spots Danny indicated, then at one of his warriors. The warrior checked the scanner and nodded. "He is correct, Commander. Underground voids detected." "How do you know this?" Vexthor asked Danny. "I've explored all around here. The colony teaches us to map the land. These forests have underground water systems. The ground looks solid, but it's hollow underneath in places." Vexthor's expression changed. He looked at Danny with new interest. "What else do you know about this terrain?" Danny pointed to other features on the map. "This ridgeline here, it's unstable. Rock slides happen there naturally. If you hit it with explosives, you could bring down a lot of stone and block that approach. And these trees in this area, they have sap that burns really hot when ignited. The creatures will avoid fire." One of the warriors spoke up in the Valorian language. The translator picked it up. "Commander, the human knows tactical advantages we did not see. Perhaps we should listen to him." Vexthor made a decision quickly. "Adjust defensive positions. Teams 3 and 4. Plant charges on the ridgeline and the weak ground points. Team 5. Prepare incendiary rounds for the sap trees. We will use this human's knowledge of his own world." Kira stood beside Danny, and he could tell she was impressed. She said something to her father in their language, and Vexthor replied briefly. Then they got to work. Danny was assigned to a position with two young Valorian warriors near the mouth of the canyon. Their names, as translated, were something like Rallin and Kex. They were both bigger than Danny but seemed uncertain about fighting alongside a human. Danny did not blame them. He probably seemed small and weak compared to their species. The first wave of creatures appeared just as the sun began to set. Danny saw them coming down the canyon, moving in a way that was not natural. They ran in straight lines, not stopping to look around or sniff the air. They were being controlled, just like the Razorback had been. There were Razorbacks in this group, but also other creatures, flying things with leathery wings and sharp beaks, four-legged predators that looked like huge wolves. Things Danny did not even have names for. Hold fire until they reached the markers. Vex Thor's voice came through a device in Danny's helmet. The Valorians had given him a communication setup so he could hear orders. Danny watched the creatures come closer. His heart was pounding, but his hands were steady on the weapon. Beside him, Raylan and Kex were calm and ready. These were trained soldiers. Danny was just a kid from a colony, but he had his own advantages. He understood this world in ways they did not. The beasts crossed an invisible line marked in Danny's helmet display. Vex Thor gave the order. Now, the Valorians opened fire. Their energy weapons cut through the creatures with bright blue beams. The first line of beasts fell, but more kept coming. Then the charges Danny had suggested went off. The ground collapsed under a group of wolf-like predators, swallowing them into underground voids. They struggled in the holes, unable to climb out. The ridgeline exploded next. Tons of rock came crashing down, blocking off one entire approach. The beasts from that direction were cut off. The remaining creatures changed direction, focusing on the main canyon entrance where Danny and the others were positioned. Danny fired his weapon, getting used to the way it handled. The energy beam shot out and hit a flying creature. The thing dropped from the sky. He fired again and again, targeting the beasts that got closest. Rallin and Kex were firing too, their shots more accurate than his. But Danny was learning fast. A Razorback charged their position. Danny remembered fighting the last one. He aimed for the creature's eyes and fired. His shot hit, and the beast stumbled. Kex finished it with 2 more shots. The young warrior looked at Danny and made a gesture that seemed to be approval. The battle went on for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. The Valorians' weapons and tactics were superior, and Danny's knowledge of the terrain gave them key advantages. The beasts kept coming, but in smaller numbers now. Bodies piled up in front of the cave entrance. Then Danny saw something that made his blood run cold. On the ridge above the canyon, he spotted figures in combat armor. Not Valorians. These were different, human-sized but wearing heavy gear and carrying advanced weapons. They had devices in their hands that looked like remote controls. "Up there," Danny shouted, pointing. "Those are the ones controlling the beasts." Vex Thor saw them too. The criminals. They are staying back and directing the attack from safety. If we can destroy their control devices, the beasts will scatter. "How do we reach them?" Kira asked. "They are too high up. Our weapons cannot get a good angle." Danny studied the cliff face. He knew that rock wall. There was a climbing route up the back side. A path he had used before to reach the best sensor locations. It was dangerous and steep, but it could be done. "I can get up there," Danny said. "I know a way." "Absolutely not," Vex Thor said immediately. "It is too dangerous. It's the only way. Your warriors don't know the path. It would take too long to explain. I can climb it." "Danny, no," Kira said. "You are still injured. My arm is fine. The medicine worked." "Look." Danny moved his arm to show he had full movement. It still ached, but he could use it. Vex's Thor was silent for a moment, considering. More beasts were coming. They did not have time for long debates. "If I send warriors with you, can they follow your path?" the commander asked. "2, maybe. Light and fast." Vex Thor selected Raylan and Kex. "Go with the human. Do as he says. Destroy those control devices. The rest of us will hold here." Kira grabbed Danny's arm. Be careful. Please. I will. Danny led Rollin and Kex away from the main battle, moving along the canyon wall. The sound of fighting faded behind them as they reached the back section. The cliff face rose up, dark and steep. Danny found the start of his climbing route, natural handholds and ledges that formed a path upward. He started climbing, and the two Valorians followed. They were lighter and more agile than humans, built for this kind of movement. But Danny knew where to grab, where to step, which rocks were loose. His injured arm protested, but he pushed through the pain. They climbed for 10 minutes, moving up the cliff face in near darkness. Below, Danny could hear the battle continuing. He had to reach those criminals before they sent more beasts. His colony was depending on it. Even if they did not know, Kira was depending on it. He could not fail. They reached the top. Danny pulled himself over the edge and immediately saw the criminals. There were 5 of them, all focused on their control devices and watching the battle below. They had not expected anyone to come from behind. Danny, Raylan, and Kex moved quickly across the ridge. The criminals were so focused on the battle below they did not notice 3 figures approaching from behind. Danny could see the control devices clearly now, small screens showing positions of all the enhanced creatures. These people were using living animals as weapons without any care for the suffering they caused. One of the criminals turned and saw them. His eyes went wide with surprise. He shouted something and reached for his weapon. Rollin fired first, a precise shot that hit the criminal's weapon and destroyed it. The other criminals scattered, diving for cover behind rocks. Danny ran toward the nearest control device. A criminal turned and fired at him, but Danny was already moving. The shot missed and hit rock instead. Danny reached the device and smashed it with the butt of his rifle. The screen went dark. Kex was in hand-to-hand combat with another criminal. The Valorians' combat training made the fight short. The criminal went down. Rallin had pinned 2 others behind a large boulder. One of them tried to run, and Danny tackled him. They struggled on the ground, and Danny's wounded arm screamed with pain, but he held on until Rallin pulled the criminal away. The last criminal tried to escape down the other side of the ridge. Danny saw him carrying the main control device. If that one got away, they could just rebuild the whole system. Danny did not think. He just ran after the criminal and leaped, catching the man around the legs. They both went down hard. The control device flew from the criminal's hands and bounced toward the edge of the cliff. Danny scrambled after it on his hands and knees. His fingers closed around it just as it was about to fall. He pulled it back and then threw it as hard as he could against a rock. The device shattered into pieces. Below in the canyon, something changed. The enhanced creatures suddenly stopped their coordinated attack. They looked around, confused, like they were waking from a dream. Then, one by one, they turned and ran back into the forest. Without the control signals, they were just normal animals again. And normal animals did not attack defended positions. Danny sat on the ground, breathing hard. His arm was bleeding again through the bandage. Rallin checked on him, while Kex secured the criminals. The young Valorian warrior looked at Danny with an expression of respect. You climb like a mountain cat, Rallin said through the translator, and you think fast. For a human who is not a warrior, you fight well. Thanks, Danny managed between breaths. They made their way back down the cliff more slowly this time, with the criminals bound and walking ahead of them. When they reached the canyon floor, the battle was over. Valorian warriors were checking the perimeter and treating minor wounds. The ground was covered with the bodies of enhanced creatures. It made Danny sad to see them. These animals were just victims too. Kira ran to Danny when she saw him. She checked his arm and saw the fresh blood. You opened your wounds again. I told you it was dangerous. But we stopped them, Danny said. Yes, you did. Vex Thor approached with several warriors. He looked at the captured criminals, then at Danny. The human suggests a risky plan, leads 2 of my warriors up a cliff face, and succeeds. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. We all worked together, Danny said. Rallin and Kex did most of the fighting, but you knew the path. You knew the terrain. You saw the opportunity. Vexthor paused. My people have advanced technology and military training, but we do not always see the simple solutions that someone who truly knows a place can see. This is a valuable lesson. The medic came and insisted on treating Danny's arm again. While that was happening, Vexthor used a communication device to contact his superiors. Danny could hear parts of the conversation, even though he did not understand the language. Vexthor sounded like he was arguing. At one point, the commander's voice grew louder and firmer. Finally, Vexthor ended the call. He looked tired but satisfied. My superiors are not happy about the situation, but I have convinced them that circumstances have forced our hand. Official first contact with your colony will proceed. Your world is under threat from these criminals, and we can no longer stand by and watch. What does that mean? Danny asked. It means your colony government will be contacted, treaties will be discussed, aid will be offered. The attacks on New Haven will stop because we will hunt down the rest of these criminals together. Vexthor looked at Danny directly. You have changed the course of history, young human. First contact was going to happen eventually, but you made it happen now, in a way that shows the best of both our peoples. 3 days later, Danny woke up in a proper medical bed in the colony's hospital. His wounds had been treated with a combination of Valorian and human medicine. The doctors said he would recover fully, though he would have some scars. His parents were there, and his mother cried when she hugged him. You could have died, she said. I'm okay, Mom. I promise. His father looked at him with a mix of pride and worry. The whole colony is talking about what you did. The aliens. The battle. Everything. The governor has been in meetings with the alien commander for 2 days straight. Is Kira okay? Danny asked. The alien girl? Yes, she's fine. She asked about you several times. They let Kira visit that afternoon. She came with 2 guards, but they stayed by the door. She sat beside Danny's bed and smiled. You heal well, she said. Her English was better now, clearer through the translator device. My father says you are strong for your age. How's your leg? Perfect now. Valorian medicine is very good. Your medicine is good too, but different. Our doctors are interested in comparing techniques. They talked for a while about the battle and what had happened after. The captured criminals were being held by the Valorians. More of their organization members had been arrested on other worlds. The threat was not completely gone, but it was much smaller now. Danny, Kira said, becoming more serious. My father wants to offer something to you and to your colony. We want to build a training facility here, a place where young humans and young Valorians can learn together. Fighting skills, but also medicine, technology, understanding each other. You would be welcome to join, if you want. A school? More than a school. A place to build friendship between our peoples. My father says if humans and Valorians can work together like we did, we will both be stronger. Danny thought about it. He thought about the criminals out there, the dangers in the galaxy that his colony did not even know about yet. He thought about the battle and how working together had saved them all. I want to join, he said. I want to learn more about your people, about what's out there in space. Kira's smile was bright. Good. I hoped you would say that. We will be students together. 5 years passed. Danny was now 20 years old, no longer a boy but a young man. The training facility on New Haven had grown into a full academy, the first of its kind. Hundreds of human and Valorian students studied there, learning from each other. Danny stood on a platform overlooking the academy grounds. Beside him was Kira, now a decorated warrior in the Valorian fleet. They both wore uniforms that combined elements of human and Valorian design, symbols of their joint service. Remember when we met? Kira asked. You were so small and so scared. I was terrified, Danny admitted. But I couldn't just leave you there. That is what humans do, Father says. When faced with danger, when someone needs help, you do not calculate odds. You just act. It is both reckless and noble. And Valorians teach us to think strategically, to use honor as strength. We balance each other out. They watched as students trained below, humans and Valorians working in mixed teams. Some were practicing combat techniques. Others were studying medicine or engineering. All of them were learning that two species were stronger together than apart. Danny's communicator beeped. It was a message from the colonial government. Another frontier world was reporting strange animal attacks, the same pattern as before. There might be more criminals out there using the same tactics. Looks like we have work to do, Danny said, showing Kira the message. We always have work to do. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Good thing we're not facing it alone anymore. They left the platform and headed toward the command center. Other teams were already gathering. Human and Valorian officers working side by side. Vex Thor was there, now officially the ambassador to New Haven and the head of joint military operations. He saw Danny and Kira approach and nodded. New mission? Kira asked her father. Possibly. We need scouts to investigate. I was thinking of sending you two. Danny and Kira exchanged a look. They had become the best scout team in the joint forces, using Kira's combat skills and Danny's ability to read terrain and think creatively. They had run dozens of missions together over the years. We're ready, Danny said. Vex Thor allowed himself a small smile. I know you are. That is why I chose you. But be careful. We still do not fully understand these criminals, or what they want. We will, Father, Kira said. As they left to prepare for the mission, Danny thought about how much had changed. 5 years ago, he was just a kid checking atmospheric sensors in a forest. Now he was a scout and ambassador, working to protect multiple worlds and build bridges between species. He had not set out to be a hero. He had just seen someone who needed help and done what felt right. But sometimes, that was all it took. One person making one choice could change everything. The galaxy was dangerous, full of threats and unknowns. But it was also full of possibilities. Humans were not alone anymore. They had allies, friends, partners in facing whatever came next. Danny looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the evening sky. Somewhere up there were more worlds, more peoples, more dangers and more opportunities. He was ready to face them all, not alone, but standing beside friends from another world, because that was what this was all about. Not just survival, but connection. Not just strength, but honor. Not just technology, but courage. Together, humans and Valorians were building something new, and it all started with a boy who refused to run, and a girl who never forgot.